There is a king whose name is carved into the Mahabharata, the Vishnu Purana, the Shiva Purana. And yet almost no one tells his full story. He carried a mountain on his spine. He let poison pour from his own mouth. He watched his people burn, name by name, and could not stop it. And through all of it, he never asked for anything in return. Not power, not glory, not even to be remembered. Lord Krishna himself, on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, speaking to all of humanity across all of time, stopped and said, "Among serpents, I am Vasuki." That one line should tell you everything, but it tells you nothing unless you know the story behind it. Today, we go there. Vasuki was born in the lineage of Maharishi Kashyap and his wife Kadru, the mother of all serpents. From her, thousands of Nagas came into being. Sheshnag, Takshak, Karkotaka, Padma. A great and ancient clan, older than most of what we call civilization. But Vasuki was different from the beginning. You may know Sheshnag, the cosmic serpent, whose infinite coils form the bed on which Lord Vishnu rests, and upon whose hoods the weight of the entire earth is balanced. Sheshnag is the symbol of eternal patience, of holding, of endurance without complaint. Vasuki is something else. If Sheshnag is the stillness beneath existence, Vasuki is the one who moves into the fire. He became the Nagaraj, the king of the Nagas. His realm was Naglok, a hidden kingdom in the depths of Patal Lok, described in the texts as luminous with gems, alive with ancient knowledge, filled with rivers that carried not water but wisdom. And over all of it, Vasuki ruled with something rare in kings of any age: equal justice. The small Naga and the great one stood in the same court. The same dharma applied to both. He is described with a Nagamani, a jewel upon his forehead that lit all of Naglok without need of sun or fire. 9 hoods, each representing a different direction of power. And eyes that, if you met them, made you remember your own wrongdoings. Not with shame, but with clarity. The gaze of a just king. But here is the thing about Vasuki's inner life that the texts quietly reveal. He was not interested in power for its own sake. From the very beginning, what he wanted was something simpler and something far more difficult. He wanted to serve. In the early days of Naglok, when Vasuki was still young in his kingship, he heard about Mahadeva, not the sanitized version, not Shiva, the gracious deity sitting comfortably in a temple. He heard about that Shiva, the one who smears cremation ash on his body, who chooses to live among the dead in the forests that others flee from, who holds destruction and compassion in the same hand and calls it the same thing. Something in Vasuki recognized that. Something in him said, "This is the truth I have been looking for." He went to the Himalayas. He found a cave and he sat down. The penance he undertook was severe. The texts use the word go, which means something beyond what the body should survive. No food, no water. Months passed into years. Storms broke over the mountain. Snow buried the cave entrance. Termites moved across his scales. And still, the mantra continued. Om Namah Shivaya, a current running beneath every breath, beneath every silence. And then one day, because Shiva always comes for those who truly call, the earth shook. The sky broke open in a strange thunder, and Mahadeva stood before him. Ganga flowing through matted locks, the crescent moon cool on his forehead, ash on his skin like starlight. And in his eyes, that particular quality of Shiva's gaze that sees through everything you have built around yourself, straight into what you actually are. Shiva looked at Vasuki and said, "Your devotion has drawn me here. Ask, what do you desire?" Vasuki was quiet for a moment. And then he said, "My lord, I want nothing. Only this, that I may always remain near you." Think about that. A king, a being of extraordinary power, sitting before the source of all boons. And what he asked for wasn't sovereignty over new realms, not immortality, not weapons or wealth or influence, just proximity, just the right to serve. Shiva was silent. Then, "Tathastu, from today, you will become the ornament of my neck." And so Vasuki, king of the Nagas, took his place coiled around the throat of Mahadeva, where he remains in every image, in every Shiva linga, in every temple across the world to this day. Still there, still holding, still choosing nearness over everything else. But devotion, in the Hindu philosophical tradition, is never simply a feeling. It is tested. Repeatedly, as if the universe needs to confirm that what you carry is real. Vasuki's test came with a task that no one else could do, and that anyone with self-preservation instincts would have refused. The gods had lost their divine power to a sage's curse. The demons had seized the heavens. Lord Vishnu offered a solution. Churn the Kshir Saga, the cosmic ocean of milk. From its depths would rise Amrit, the nectar that cannot be exhausted, the immortality that cannot be revoked. But the churning required Mount Mandarakala as the rod, and the rod required a rope. Brahma said, only Vasuki could serve as that rope. The gods and demons came to Naglok together, a strange alliance born of shared need. They stood before the Nagaraj and asked him to offer his own body as a tool, to wrap himself around a mountain, to be pulled from both ends by beings far less scrupulous than himself. Vasuki understood exactly what was being asked. He was not naive about the pain it would involve. The weight of Mandarakala pressing into his spine, the tearing from both sides, the possibility that his body would simply give out before the churning was done. He was silent for a moment. Then, "I am ready." The churning began. The gods stood on the tail side, Vishnu's quiet wisdom at work, placing them there deliberately. The demons on the head side, thinking themselves more powerful for it. They didn't understand that as the friction grew and the spinning intensified, the smoke and fire would pour from Vasuki's mouth, and it would pour directly into their faces. Vasuki didn't even know he was protecting the gods. He was simply enduring. The mountain turned. The ocean heaved. The pressure on his body was unlike anything the scriptures describe in physical terms. They simply say that Vasuki bore it, that he did not cry out, that he did not ask for the churning to stop. And from the depths, creation began to release its gifts. Kamadenu, the wish-fulfilling cow. Ushchaishravas, the divine horse. Airavata, the white elephant. Kalpavriksha, the Apsaras. Lakshmi herself, rising on a lotus. Dhanvantari, carrying the vessel of Amrit. And then, something else. The water blackened. A smell unlike anything living reached the gods first. They stepped back before they understood why. Then the surface broke open, and what rose was Hala Hala, the Calcut venom. The poison that had accumulated in the depths of all creation since the beginning of time. A substance so lethal that its mere proximity began to wither the trees, silence the birds, boil the ocean. Both gods and demons fled, and Vasuki was still there, still wrapped around the mountain. He had given his word, and his word to him was not negotiable. He breathed the Hala Hala. He felt it move through his scales, and he stayed. Everyone called for Shiva, and Shiva came. He lifted the Hala Hala in his palm, held it there for one terrifying moment, for all the worlds to see. Then drank it. Parvati caught his throat. The poison stayed there, neither going down nor coming back. His neck turned blue. and so began the name that echoes through every prayer: Neelkanth. In that moment, Vasuki was coiled around that very throat. He felt the poison his god had drunk. He felt the stillness of Shiva holding death inside himself and not being moved by it. And something in Vasuki, already broken from the churning, already carrying the weight of the mountain in his bones, something in him simply held tighter, not in panic, in love. But the hardest chapter of Vasuki's story is not the churning. It is not Tripura Dahan, where he became the string of Shiva's bow so that 3 demon cities could be destroyed with a single arrow. It is not even the Mahabharata, where his blessing doubled Bhima's already mythic strength. The hardest chapter is the one that came from his own home, his own blood. Kadru, his mother, made a bet with her stepsister Vinata over the color of a divine horse's tail. When she realized she was about to lose, she commanded her Naga children to coil themselves on the horse's tail and make it appear black. A lie disguised as obedience. Many Nagas refused. They said, "This is sin. We will not do it." Kadru cursed them. In her rage, their own mother cursed her children, sentenced them all to die in fire. Vasuki was king. He bore that knowledge quietly. A king often has to carry the weight of what he cannot undo. And then, generations later, it came true. King Janamejaya, consumed by grief over his father Parikshit's death at the fangs of Takshak, initiated the Sarpa Yajna, the serpent sacrifice, a ritual of absolute annihilation, where mantras were recited, names were called, and each name serpent, wherever it was in the 3 worlds, was pulled by invisible force directly into the fire. The fire roared, and the names began. Vasuki sat in Naglok and listened. Name by name, face by face, a servant from his court, a friend of his brother, a child who had only just learned to speak. Into the fire, into the fire, into the fire. He who had not wept through the pain of Samudra Manthan. He who had not flinched when Shiva drank poison against his scales. He wept. And in his grief, he asked the question that perhaps you too have asked in your own life. In whatever language, in whatever moment of helplessness, must the children always pay for the sins of those who came before them? Can one lie, one moment of weakness, truly erase an entire lineage? He closed his eyes. He remembered Shiva, and he prayed, not the formal prayer of ritual, but the raw prayer of a king who has run out of options. The answer came not from above, but from within his own family. Long ago, Brahma had told him, "Your sister Jaratkaru will bear a son named Astika, and Astika will be the one." Vasuki turned to his sister Manasa Devi, herself weeping, herself burning, and said quietly, "Sister, your son is our last hope." Astika arrived at the Yajna site, young, radiant, filled with Vedic knowledge so deep and precise that King Janamejaya stopped the ritual just to listen. Pleased, the king offered a boon. Astika asked for one thing only: stop the Yajna. The fire died. The names stopped. The Nagas were saved. And Vasuki, the king who had moved mountains, who had held creation together as a rope, who had been a weapon and an ornament and a witness, fell at the feet of his young nephew and said, "You have given life to my entire lineage. I am forever in your debt." A king, bowing to a child, because that child had done what all his power could not. That is what Dharma looks like when it is real. It doesn't calculate status. It honors the source of grace, wherever it comes from. On the battlefield of Kurukshetra, with armies facing each other across a field of unthinkable consequence, Arjuna broke down. The Gandiva fell. His hands trembled. Krishna spoke. He revealed his Virat Swarupa, the cosmic form that contains all of existence, and walked Arjuna through it. He named the greatest of everything. Among gods, I am Indra. Among rivers, I am the Ganga. Among mountains, I am the Meru. And then, among serpents, I am Vasuki. Not Sheshnag, who holds the earth. Not Takshak, who is feared across the three worlds. Vasuki, the one who asked for nothing. The one who endured without complaint. The one who wept for his people in private and found a way forward anyway. When God says, I am this, he isn't simply listing the powerful. He's pointing to a particular quality that he recognizes as divine. In Vasuki, that quality was this: the willingness to serve beyond what serving costs you, to hold the mountain even when your spine is breaking, to stay near your God even when your God is drinking poison. That quality, Krishna was saying, is not ordinary. That quality is me. Every year in the month of Shravan, Nag Panchami is observed. Milk is offered to serpents, prayers are spoken, and in every temple, coiled around every Shiva linga, there he is. Still. Vasuki, still holding, still there. We tend to remember the gods who blazed, who fought and won and returned in triumph. Those stories are necessary. They give us courage. But Vasuki's story gives us something else. It gives us the permission to serve without recognition, to stay when staying is painful, to hold tighter when everything in the situation tells us to let go. Most of us will never churn a cosmic ocean, but most of us know what it is to carry something heavy, a responsibility, a grief, a family burden we did not choose, and to keep going anyway, to keep showing up. Not because the reward is coming, but because this is who we are. Vasuki did not become divine because he performed great deeds. He performed great deeds because he had already decided, quietly, in a Himalayan cave, alone, what he was willing to give, and to whom, and without condition. That decision is available to all of us, every single day. If Vasuki's story moved something in you, write it in the comments. Not just Jai Vasuki. Tell me which moment. Was it the penance, the churning, the names falling into the fire? Those comments become the next video. Your questions shape this channel. Subscribe and press the bell, because the next journey is already being prepared. We go next into the world of Sheshnag, Takshak, and the hidden history of Naglok. Until then, Jai Mahadeva. I'll see you there.